I know the first question you're gonna ask is, after it's lifted, how big of a tire can I put on my Passport? Hey guys, welcome back to HRG TV. Today in our shop we have a brand new 2024 Honda Passport in the beautiful Sonic Gray paint. Now this is a trail sport model, as you can see. It has off-road tires from the factory, slightly different springs and slightly different shocks. The Passport Trail Sport does not have a lift kit. I think it needs one. If you have a Trail Sport Passport and you want a lift kit, we have them available right now at hrgoffroad.com. This lift kit that we're about to install will fit both the Trail Sport and non-Trail Sport models. Now, today, we're gonna be putting on a 4.5-inch Beast lift kit. All right, the first thing we're gonna do is take out these two bolts here. That is the engine dampener. As you can see, just took those two bolts out and the engine didn't move. That's because this does not support the weight, it just dampens vibrations. The main motor mounts are underneath, attached to the subframe. So we're gonna take these out because this whole assembly is gonna drop down a little bit. If you didn't already know this about Hondas, a lot of them have this extra little place for your hood prop. It's like the service position. So you have a lot more room under here. Not all cars have that. I think it's one of the cool things about the Hondas. Basically, there are 4 big bolts that hold the subframe to the body, and then you've got these little strengthener brackets, which each have 2 bolts. So all in all, there's only 12 bolts that hold the entire assembly to the car. That's as hard as it gets. It's super easy. If you don't have a lift and a pole jack, this job is considerably more difficult, but not impossible. You'd want to have it on jack stands and then use a floor jack with maybe a piece of wood or something to support the weight of this, and that'll allow you to drop it down in a controlled manner. We're going to use this because we do have a lift. All right, now we're going to go ahead and start off by taking off the bolts that hold these strengthener brackets on. We will not be reusing these, but if you ever decide to take the lift kit back off, you'll need these, so save them. I'm going to put in the new bolt one at a time. Basically, this is just sort of a safety net. We don't want this to fall, but it also keeps the subframe in line when you lower it so that it doesn't get all out of whack. 21, no, 22, yes. Okay. And of course, I always recommend threading bolts in by hand first. Some people enjoy a good old cross-threaded bolt. I'm not one of those people, so I always try to hand thread the bolt in whenever possible. Okay, that's basically threaded in. So now when we drop it, it's gonna rest on these. It won't come crashing down. So if you were worried about that, there's your safety net. This wire harness needs to be popped loose so that it doesn't rip itself out when we lower that. What's cool is there's actually enough slack when it's done, so we don't have to extend wiring, but I just want to be safe and not have it pop loose. So we will relocate that when we're finished, but that should give us enough slack. Okay, a couple more bolts back here. I'm gonna go ahead and lower this down. There you go, there's the front lowered. Move on to the back. This is going to come down, but not much. Okay, now ever so carefully lower this part. Okay, we'll move on to the other side. Hand thread. as you can see, it is lowering in a controlled fashion. We have 4 giant bolts holding it up. So there you go. Subframe is lowered. We're ready to start installing the spacer part. The spacers are gonna go right there, and we're already dropped enough. You can just go ahead and remove the bolt one at a time. All right. Bring this up. Now, we gotta line up these other 2 holes here. Billet aluminum, very nice. Grade 10.9 hardware. Okay. Pull this loose. Come on. There it goes. All right, this one's not cooperating at all. There it goes. In the words of Jeremy Clarkson, edit that bit out, right? There. Okay. Put it in the wrong hole. All right, and one more. Put these in here. Yeah, no problem. Same thing on the back. We're going to go ahead and drop the bolt out, put the spacer in. Oh, we'll have to, hang on a second. I think the other side was tightened up too much. All right, we're going to do this side first. There we go. Now you see everything dropping down? That's what we want. We will get it right. There it is. Line those up. Okay. Bolt there. Whoa. Oh, it is tightening. Huh? That is pretty much the summary of your front subframe. So, I mean, it took us 30 minutes, maybe, I think 30 minutes to get this far, so don't be intimidated by it. If this is your first time doing a big lift kit like this, as you can see, it's actually pretty easy, so. Now we're going to install the spacers that go on the engine dampener. That's on the passenger side. There's 2 1-inch by 2-inch M10 spacers that go between the bracket and the engine block. And then you're going to have 2 M10 by 110 bolts that come with the kit. Next thing we're going to do is install the weather seals that goes over top of the steering column. Okay, now just push it around to the front best you can and get them to close up in the front there. All right, moving on to the front actual spacer installation. I'm going to take the brake line off. We also have to pull these sway bar end links out. In the likelihood that your car is a little bit older than this one, when you do this installation, you probably have to use a hex key right here and a wrench to get that off. Brake line, the ABS wire. Oh, the shop dog. Hey, Zelda. Zelda, come to say hi. Hi, sweetie. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Sweet girl. She's just a sweetie. All right, get out of here. Okay. Now, what you don't want to do is leave this hanging. So we're going to hook I just hook like a strap, and I'm going to hook the top up here. That way you're not hanging it from the brake line. Axle comes out next. Then brake rotor. There you go. Now, we got 2 cotter pins. Right here is your cotter pin. Take that off. There we go, just like that. The towel rod end isn't going to come out on its own, so you got to give it about 2.5 pounds of encouragement. Just pick up on it like this and just give it a good just like that. And then the same thing goes for the bottom ball joint, but this one is a 2-person job because you have to put leverage on it, and then someone has to hit the thing with a hammer. I don't have a helper today, I just realized. Normally you'd have a helper here, someone to push down on this and the other person to hit it with a hammer. Last time I did this, I dislocated my shoulder, so I'm not sure if I should be doing this. What up, dude?
Yeah.
I need help.
Shot. No.
Get out of the shot. I need you to pull down on this.
Okay. Like hang on it? Or?
Yeah, well, it's gonna pop loose once I shock this ball joint.
Okay.
There it goes. Sometimes it takes a couple extra hits, but it always comes loose. All right, so now that you've got the lower ball joint out, we're going to push the axle through. Now, I had the same problem on the other side where the axle just wouldn't come free. So I want you to gently tap to get this out. You see it move? It's just really tight. What you don't want to do is hit this really hard, because you can mushroom this end and you won't be able to put a nut back on. And at some point it will pop loose. There it goes. Now we're free, other than the bolts at the top. There's no need to take off this pinch bolt. It doesn't improve the situation at all. We've got to put this in service position right here. All right, now that that's out of the way, we've got 1 nut just lingering right there. Ow. These things weigh about 50 pounds, so just be ready for that. This is definitely another 2-person job. Oh. Oh my God, that is a heavy bastard. Oh. Yeah, which way? This way? It only goes on one way. Can't put it on wrong. So it's if you're sitting in the car, your left is your left and your right is your right, and this spacer is on the right, so labeled with an R. We're gonna use the OEM nuts to attach this. Now you might be wondering, how do you put torque on these when the whole top hat spins? So I'll show you a little trick. Now you've got all the leverage you could ever want. There you go. Good and tight. Now going back in is absolutely a 2-person job, because lifting that, it's more than 50 pounds now with that spacer. And trying to get a nut started is almost impossible to do by yourself. All right, I'm gonna fucking get all psyched up for this. can't tell where it needs to be. All right. Oh, it's starting to get real heavy. Oh, got it. Whew. That was easy. Not really. It's better if you have help. This next part is gonna be the most difficult part by far, but there's an easy way, which I'm gonna show you now. So first thing you wanna do is get your axle sort of pushed back into its place. Sometimes it doesn't wanna go, but it will. Be a mechanic, they said. It's fun. Nope. I mean, sometimes it is, but not today. There it goes. This is what we're trying to do. Nope, that's supposed to move. That's fine. So basically you want to get it to where you can get some threads on it. And then you can just use the nut to pull the axle all the way through. Now, this is the most difficult part of the difficult part. Does that make sense? Getting this ball joint to go back into the wheel hub, you need a really big pry bar. It just gives you a little more leverage so that you're not pushing so hard on a short bar. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn the ball joint outward like that, and that way we can get it to pop in. And if you guys are watching this because you got stuck on this point, you'll be like, oh man, why didn't I think of that? Because I can tell you that it isn't immediately obvious how to do this. So now we've got it started and we just have to pop it in place. It needs to go that way.
Hey,
there it is. So that is the answer to why doesn't the lower ball joint go back into the wheel hub. It's because you have to do it a certain way. So hopefully that saves you a bunch of time and effort. All right, brake rotor going back on. Tie rod end. Put this back in. Okay. All right, and on this one you want to line up the hole for the cotter pin. I'm lined up, but I'm going to go to the next slot here. So the cotter pin will go through. This just slides back in and then clips in place, just like that. We've got ABS wires, we've got brake lines, we've got sway bar end links. So let's start with ABS wires. Pop those back into place. Lucky for us, the ABS wire has enough slack. We don't have to worry about putting a longer wire in or even relocating it. So we're gonna leave that as is. Just take that off. Get that out of the way. You gotta be careful sliding this back over the rotor so the brake pads don't come loose. But just throw the bolts back in reverse order. There it is. All right, so a lot of people wonder why in the world you would use a shorter sway bar length for lifted. In a lot of people's minds, it seems like it would be longer, but what you gotta remember is that this sway bar end link is attached to the strut. And when you move the strut down with spacer, everything moves down, including this. And when you move this down, if you can look at where this is gonna sit now, just follow the sway bar from here. The other end, you can see it isn't gonna go. It's just gonna hit right there. So what you have to do is shorter sway bar links. That's what these are. These come with the kit. So as you can see, the shorter links fixes the issue, and that is why you have a shorter link. So the new sway bar links are going to have this nylock nut. Basically, it is a lock nut, so it doesn't slide off, but that also means you can't spin it on all the way like you could the OEM ones. So unfortunately, this is a bit of an arduous task because you have to use like a ratcheting wrench and an Allen key. So let me get that real quick. Tighten it like that. Most common noise that people hear after installing a lift kit is caused by these not being tight. So I can't stress enough to you, tighten these nuts really, really tight. All right, so we got to install these brake line relocation brackets. We're going to use the factory bolt to hold it right there. Try. Come on, there it goes. Yeah, just like that. Now this doesn't move from here to here ever, so we want to make sure we have enough slack. It's never going to pull any tighter than that. But what we've got now is a ton of slack on this side. We need to make sure when we turn that it doesn't pull the brake line, and it doesn't. You can see I'm turning the wheel back and forth, and we still have plenty of slack right there. All right, that's pretty much it for the front. We move on to the back now, and we're going to start with the subframe. So basically it's all 17mm bolts. Got 2 brackets back here and then a couple brackets up here. All of it is 17mm bolts. I'm gonna go ahead and start with these. Got it supported with a pole jack so that it doesn't fall and crush us. Okay. And we're temporarily putting these bolts in just to keep the subframe aligned when we lower it. You don't have to thread them in all the way. Get them in there a little ways, and that way it'll be steady. Now when I take this bolt out, it is going to come down a little bit, but you got to remember we're supported back here and we're supported on the other side. So it's not going to come down too far. Yeah, it dropped like 1/4 of an inch, so we're all right. And again, we're going to put these longer bolts in. It's a 22mm. That's as far as it's going to drop. We can do the same thing back here, actually. That way we can lower it with the bolt. This is going to drop quite a bit, but don't be alarmed. Like I said, we still got a lot of support under here. So. All right, there's that. Now you can see we got about 1.5 inches of gap right there. We need to have 2 inches of gap. This is a 2-inch subframe drop. But yeah, for right now, we got about 1 inch on either side on the back. And let's see, front, about 1.5 inches here as well. If we can get a 2-inch spacer in there, we're good. That's got to come down a little more. Okay. There we go. So now, there we go. That's just enough. All right, we're gonna go ahead and put this bolt back in now. Little 2-inch billet aluminum spacers. Pop right in place. Place another one right here. Jeez. There we go. Nope. The last part we're gonna do on the subframe is these two back here. So I am gonna bring this back in to just hold it up. Okay. Not quite. All right, we're just gonna put a pry bar on this and pull it down just enough to get these in here. All right. Not too bad. Use the old hand hammer to knock that into place. All right, moving on to the spacers. Basically, we're gonna take these 3 bolts, drop this down, and the nice thing about the Passport and the Pilot is that you don't have to go inside the vehicle to access the mounting bolts for the strut. They're all right there. This will be the quickest part of this entire job right here. Bolt there. And we're gonna loosen this. We're not gonna take it all the way out, just loosen it. And this is a 24. And we're gonna just swing this down out of the way, just like that. Raided my tool drawer and grabbed all my extensions. We're gonna go ahead and mount the spacer onto the strut using hardware provided in the kit. Just sort of leave everything loose until everything is basically put together, because you'll need to adjust where this bottom part of the strut fits into the lower control arm. All right, so I've marked these left and right because you don't want to mix them up, because left stays on the left. Left and right. Left stays on left side, right stays on right side. I just wanted to show you. All right, we're gonna go ahead and throw these back in. Now, these bolts have a super long shaft at the end for a very good reason. These bolts are super easy to cross thread. Ask me how I know that. I don't know, I saw it on TV. Although some people do enjoy a good cross thread, I'm not one of those people. This is definitely one where it's important to thread it in by hand first. And we're not gonna tighten this until we get the bottom bolt through, you know what I mean, into here. And then we'll tighten everything up. Another thing we're not going to tighten up is these 3 until we have weight on the vehicle or weight on the suspension. That'll just help prolong bushing life on these 3 bushings right here. So what I might do actually is just use a screw jack and put some weight on this and then tighten it in the air. It's much harder to do on the ground because the tire's in the way and all that. So I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. So now we're gonna go ahead and lift up on this. And I wanna say this part is actually easier on the ground with a floor jack. I do love working on new cars. No rust anywhere. So hopefully we'll be able to get this up high enough that we can get it lined up. To see how you can move it back and forth. That's why you need a floor jack for this. You can't just use a regular pole jack. Yeah, okay, so you can see we're pretty close. Yeah, look at that. There it is. Easy. Yeah, and as you can see, we got weight on the suspension, so we're gonna go ahead and tighten all 3 of these bolts. All right, as you can see, since this is now lifted, we've got to relocate this brake line. Okay. Now we've got these cool brake line brackets. Whoever packed these spent way too much time putting the bolts and the nuts through them, which I don't really care for. Take the back factory bolt out and then mount this like so. Okay, so we'll go ahead and bolt that in. Plenty of slack. I know this looks tight, but you can definitely move it a couple of inches back and forth. This is as big as you can go on these as far as lift size without having to put new brake lines in. But as you can see, there's plenty of slack. It's not too tight. We're gonna go ahead and drop down these muffler hangers here. Spray with a little bit of WD. And hopefully get these off pretty easily. Maybe not. There it goes. Okay, their muffler hangers have got a 90-degree bushing on them, so all the ones that we have and the ones that we can get are straight up and down. So we're gonna have to attach one to the other. All right, yeah, just slide you a bolt right through like that. And then we're gonna bolt them together. If you were one of the two people that doesn't like the way that looks, you could easily go to a muffler shop and have them relocate these pieces right here. It wouldn't take but maybe 10 minutes for them to cut those and re-weld them in a different place. So if you're so inclined to not use these and do it that way, there you go. Last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna drop this carrier bearing, but we also need to drop this protector loop right here. And this bolt's covered up, so we're basically gonna just cut a little notch. All I got's a box cutter, but it'll work. But whatever suitable tool you have for cutting plastic, just cut you a little notch right here. Like that. Now we can access that bolt and drop that down. And as you can see, I already notched this. Didn't get that on video, but got to cut a notch there too. Okay, the last part of this is dropping this gas tank bar. I just realized I forgot to put that one in. I think she did. Oh yeah. Battery's dead. I know the first question you're gonna ask is, after it's lifted, how big of a tire can I put on my Passport? Well, let me tell you, the Passport comes with a 245/60/18, and you can do a 255/60 or a 265/60/18. Both of those sizes would do really well. You can't really go any bigger than that without cutting the fender liner. Now, some people are not opposed to that. Personally, I'm not opposed to that because I just make it fit. So if you are not opposed to that, you could go a little bit bigger. I'm gonna put a size on the screen I think you could do. And here is the final result with that exact tire size. And as you can see, this thing is huge. Now, there is a lot more content on this Passport on Goddard Adventure YouTube channel. I'm going to put a link in the description to that channel, and you can see exactly what had to be done to get these tires on there. Now, there's one more crucial step that I have to mention here, and it is that you have to get an alignment after this installation. And now it seems obvious, but a lot of people don't do it. And if you don't, you're gonna lose drivability, you're gonna lose fuel mileage, and your tires are gonna wear out really fast. And if your alignment shop has any questions, you can just tell them to use the factory Honda specs for the alignment settings. Another thing you can do is add wheel spacers. So that'll give it a little more room for the tire and actually give it a little bit more of an aggressive stance. You're gonna want a hub-centric wheel spacer, which we sell at HRG Offroad. That means it is machined specifically to fit a Honda, the 5-on-120, and the centering on the hub and not on the lug nuts. That prevents any kind of vibrations, things like that. All right, guys, that pretty much wraps up the video. I appreciate you guys watching the whole thing. Those of you that are still here. Like, comment, and subscribe, and all that jazz. Anyways, I appreciate you watching all the way to the end, and I will see you in the next one.
Just identify as two people.
I identify as two people. Would that be binary? I better not say that. I'm gonna get in trouble. I don't know how to fix that now.
Edit that out.
Fix it in post. I'm never gonna financially recover from this. Unsubscribe for less content.